Hello my dear students, so today I am back with a new short story, a very gripping, captivating short story written by a very famous American writer, Philip K. Dick. And the name of the short story is The Cookie Lady. So let's begin. Now children, the most important thing in this particular short story is the kind of atmosphere that the writer is kind of creating. You have to look into all kinds of visual, audio-visual imagery that he's trying to create. So these things are very important. So the very first line of the short story begins like, "Where you going, Babur?" Ernie Mill shouted from across the street, fixing papers for his route. So in the very first line, we are introduced to a character named Ernie Mill. And in return, Babur Searle said that nowhere, I'm not going anywhere. And the third line goes like, "You're going to see your lady friend." Ernie laughed and laughed. "What do you go visit that old lady for? Let us in on it." So children, you all might be wondering that why this Ernie Mill is fixing papers for his route. What is the meaning of fixing papers? So here, children, let me tell you this one thing, that during late 19th century or the early 20th century in America, usually there were these newspaper boys who used to distribute newspapers in the afternoon time, usually for the profit, in order to make their ends meet. All right, so this particular line, you're going to see your lady friend, it kind of grabs the attention of the readers. All right, Ernie laughed and laughed. So here Ernie Mill is basically teasing Babur. He is mocking and making fun of this Babur, that where is he going? Is he going to meet his lady friend again? This line kind of grabs the attention of the readers, and from here only the plot itself develops. Let us in on it. Please let us know the secret. What are you hiding? Are you hiding something from us? Please let us know that where are you going? Whom are you meeting? So these particular lines kind of grab the attention of the reader. Moving on to the next line, Babur went on. He turned the corner and went down Elm Street. Already he could see the house at the end of the street, set back a little on the lot. The house was set back a little on the lot. What does this line mean? You must have observed that in foreign countries, you must have seen this, that the houses, that there is a kind of little distance, there is a minimum distance that is mandatory, which is between the house and the boundary of that house. So that kind of distance is maintained between the boundary and the house. This is called as set back a little on the lot. All right. Now children, these lines are very, very important. The front of the house was overgrown with weeds. Weeds here are unwanted plants, old dry weeds that rustled. Rustled here would mean it is actually a sound that is made by dry leaves that are rubbing against each other, and chattered in the wind. Chattered here would mean quick repeated noise. The house itself was a little grey box, shabby and unpainted. The porch steps sagging. The steps were even bent down, they were crumbling down. There was an old weather-beaten rocking chair on the porch, with a torn piece of cloth hanging over it. So that rocking chair was also damaged by sun and wind, and everything was in a very bad condition. The children, have you seen these lines? Look at the very natural vegetation of the house that Philip K. Dick is describing. Look at the natural vegetation. It is very unnatural. The weeds are overgrown, and these plants are most unwanted. Look at the description. The house itself looks very eerie, very supernatural, unkept. It is in a very bad condition. It is very unconventional. It is ghastly. It is overgrown with weeds and all sorts of bad vegetation. So children, now look at the atmosphere that Philip K. Dick is trying to create in this particular short story. The atmosphere itself is very supernatural. It is ominous. It is actually signaling that something strange is going to happen, and something unforeseen is going to happen now. The environment and the atmosphere that Philip K. Dick is trying to create in this particular short story is very important. Why it is important? Because it helps in further developing the plot and holding the attention of the readers. It helps in captivating our attention. Alright. So the image of the house, which he kind of compares metaphorically with a grey box. The color grey is here suggesting something which is very dull, which is very dry, drab, which is something which is very strange, which is not vivacious, and it is not lively as well, as if all its life force has been driven away. Alright, something like that. It is grey, symbolic of that. Alright, so the image of house itself is reduced to a grey box. Look at these onomatopoeia that the writer is trying to create. Look at the sounds, that audio visual imagery that he is trying to create in this particular paragraph. Look at these sounds created by the dry leaves as they chattered and rustled in the wind. So these onomatopoeias, these sounds, these audio visual imagery, these lines are very important. They help in building the plot of the short story. They help in setting up the atmosphere. Alright, so these lines are very important. You have to keep the description of the house in your mind. Moving on to the next paragraph. Babbar went up the walk. As he started up the rickety steps, he took a deep breath. Here, the meaning of rickety is something which is not strong, something which is weak. So, the steps were very weak, and he went up the walk. He took a deep breath there, and he could smell it, the wonderful warm smell, and his mouth began to water. His heart thudding with anticipation, Babbar turned the handle of the bell. The bell grated rustily on the other side of the door. There was silence for a time, then the sounds of someone stirring. When you further read the story, you get to know that there is this very old lady who lives inside this grey box, who lives inside this very unnatural, strange house. So here Philip K. Dick is kind of drawing a metaphorical representation of the house, which he's kind of comparing with the constitution and the condition of this very old, ancient old lady who bakes cookies for this young boy Babbar. And from this particular old lady, the very essence of life, the very essence of vitality and liveliness has been ebbed away. Ricketts children, there were rickety steps, alright. So ricket is a disease that is caused due to prolonged deficiency of vitamin D, calcium and phosphorus because of the lack of sunlight, maybe because of these overgrown weeds. See how the writer has cleverly, using his craftsmanship, how cleverly he has drawn comparison between that strange eerie steps of the house, which have almost lost its strength due to the health crisis, due to the physical weakness which this old lady might be dealing with. So this old lady might also be dealing with rickets, with physical weakness. She might not be able to move very briskly because of her age, because of her very old age. Even with this atmosphere, our hearts are also thudding with anticipation, like Babbar's heart was also thudding with anticipation. So the narrative and story suddenly shifts and the reader looks through the eyes of Babbar. We kind of read through his expectations or anticipation or enthusiasm. What is the thing that makes his mouth to water? But again, that atmosphere of eeriness, dullness and strangeness still bubbles around the very old grey house and the storyline. The house was so old that even the bell grated rustily. It made a very harsh sound. It has become very stiff because of the rust that has grown on it, and we know that the house is in a very unkept, bad shabby condition. So the narrator creates this atmosphere using the visual and auditory images. So the old lady is stirring something. Maybe she is preparing the batter for the cookies to be kept inside the oven. Alright, so Mrs. Drew opened the door. There is this line, he could smell it. What he could smell? He could smell maybe the batter, he could smell the cookies. Even the sight of cookies, even the smell of these cookies made his mouth water. She was old, very old. These lines are again very important. She was old, very old, a little dried up old lady, like the weeds that grew along the front of the house. Here this line is very important. This very old lady is being compared. So here he is drawing the simile. Is being compared to the old weeds, to the unwanted weeds. These plants, these weeds are unwanted. Hence these very dried and old weeds should be removed. So this particular lady, old lady, is compared to the weeds, overgrown weeds. Alright. She smiled down at Bubber, holding the door wide for him to come in. You are just in time. Cookies are almost ready. That's why she's saying this. Come on inside, Bernard. So we get to know his name. Bernard Bubber Searle, his name is. You are just in time. They are just now ready. So Bubber went to the kitchen door and looked in. He could see them resting on a big blue plate. So this Bubber is ready to have his very favorite thing. He's ready to have his favorite cookies now. He could see them resting on a big blue plate on top of the stove. Cookies, a plate of warm, fresh cookies right out of the oven. Cookies with nuts and raisins in them. So children, there is this one thing to observe in this particular line, that these cookies, these warm, freshly baked cookies with raisins and nuts in them, these are the only element of liveliness, the very element of warmth, vivaciousness and youthfulness in this particular house. These two people, these two things. One is Bubber, who is symbolic of liveliness, youthfulness, vitality, enthusiasm. And the second thing is these cookies, which are freshly baked, which are warm, which provide kind of warmth in this particular house, which is a grey box. Rest everything in this house, including the overgrown weeds, including the grey box and this very old lady. All these things are very dull. These are very dried up things. They do not provide enthusiasm and warmth. These are very cold things. Only cookies and this Bubber, they provide a sort of warmth. They create a kind of warmth to the atmosphere. Then this Mrs. Drew said that, how do they look? She rustled past him. Here rustled, it is also onomatopoeia. She makes a sound. This is an auditory image that the writer is drawing. Rustled here would mean to make a soft, light sound into the kitchen. And maybe some cold milk too. You like cold milk with them. She got the milk pitcher from the window box on the back porch. Then she poured a glass of milk for him and set some of the cookies on a small plate. Let's go into the living room, she said. Now children, have a look at these lines. You like cold milk with them. So here this line suggests that Bubber is a regular visitor at her house. Mrs. Drew actually knows all his likes and dislikes. So she watches Bubber relishing cookies with this cold milk. So children, because you know children, they like to dip their cookies in a cold milk and have them because it's a kind of yummy treat for them. When we kind of read these lines, we think that okay, she was a very lonely old lady and this young boy provided a sort of company to her. He kind of brings back colors and youthful enthusiasm in her life. When we first read these lines, we think of this thing. And our first question is answered, that why does Bubber visit this old lady? he visits her for these cookies. All right. And children, you might be knowing these little children. They are so innocent that they can easily be deceived. They can be easily manipulated by anyone. So this is the reason why their parents say that you don't have to talk to strangers when you are outside. If they give you any chocolate or any sort of goodies, don't accept anything from these strangers. So this is the reason that they are so innocent that they can easily be deceived. They can be manipulated. So this is the thing, that it is also a kind of cautionary tale for these young children. Now coming to the next paragraph, Babbar nodded. Mrs. Drew carried the milk and the cookies in and set them on the arm of the couch. Then she sat down in her own chair, watching Babbar plop himself down by the plate and begin to help himself. He begins to eat now. So what is the meaning of plop here? See children, he is a fully figured chubby boy. He is very fat. So therefore he just collapsed into the seat. Or it is actually, the meaning of this is setting an object down carelessly, act of sitting or falling or placing something down heavily and without care. This is the actual meaning of plop. Babbar ate greedily as usual, intent on the cookies, silent except for chewing sounds. So look at these sounds. Mrs. Drew waited patiently until the boy had finished, and his already ample sides bulged that much more. We already know that he was a fully figured, chubby, fat boy. So he has eaten so much that he has grown more fatter. But he is also not yet satisfied with the amount of cookies that he had. When Babbar was done with the plate, he glanced toward the kitchen again. He wants to have some more cookies. Look at his desire, look at his greed for these cookies. At the rest of the cookies on the stove. So he again glanced toward the kitchen again at the rest of the cookies that are kept on the stoves. So he wants more cookies now. This much cookies have not satisfied his greed and hunger and desire. Wouldn't you like to wait until later for the rest? Mrs. Drew said. So she deliberately wants the boy to wait because she is the one who wants to spend more time with this young boy. Why? You'll get to know. Then the old woman says, wouldn't you like to wait until later for the rest? Mrs. Drew said, all right. Babbar agreed. How were they? He said, fine. That's good. She leaned back in her chair. Well, what did you do in school today? How did it go? So now from these lines we get to know that she is the one, this Mrs. Drew is the one who kind of initiates conversation with Babbar. He indulges him in conversation so that he could bear with her for a few more minutes until the second batch of these cookies are ready. We also get from these lines that Babbar is a young boy. He's a young boy of few words. He speaks less. His main focus is on the plate of cookies. It's his desire to gobble up all the cookies in one go. And because of this one greed that he has for these cookies, because of this greed, he is entering this old, airy, strange house. And this old lady, because visiting her, it kinds of fulfills and satisfied his greed for cookies. She kinds of want to indulge the chubby boy in one or the other tasks. Now we'll get to know which task she is giving to this boy. The little old lady watched the boy look restlessly around the room because he doesn't want to talk much. All his focus in his entire attention is on the plate of cookies because he wants to gobble up all the cookies in one go. Bernard, she said presently, won't you stay and talk to me for a while? He had some books on his lap, some school books. Why don't you read to me from your books? You know, I don't see too well anymore because she has grown old, and it's comfort to me to be read to. Can I have the rest of the cookies after? So look at this boy. Now she's asking him to read to her. She wants him to read to her, but this boy, his entire attention, his main focus is on these cookies. He's saying that after reading, can I have that plate too? Can I have the second batch of cookies too? The old lady said, of course you can have them. Babur moved over towards her to the end of the couch. He opened his books, World Geography, Principles of Arithmetic, and Hoyt's Speller. Which do you want? She hesitated. Now the old lady said that she wants Babur to read out aloud from this geography book. Babur opened the big blue book at random. Peru. Peru is bounded on the north by Ecuador and Colombia, on the south by Chile, and on the east by Brazil and Bolivia. Peru is divided into 3 main sections. These are, first, now he begins speaking about this particular place which is Peru from his geography book, and this very old lady, she is also listening to this young boy reading it out aloud. So do you think she intentionally wants him to read out from his book? Do you think it is intentional on part of this old lady? Do you think it is her intent to listen to that book? So as readers, what do we think? Because she's trying to kind of indulge the chubby boy in one or the other tasks, like that of reading out something, in order to make him wait for a while, and so that she can also enjoy his company and he can wait for the next batch of cookies. So this is the reason that we as readers can give. But we don't know what's going to happen in the next few lines. We can read and we'll get to know that why she asked this boy to read out something from his book. Now we'll get to know why she is indulging him in these kinds of tasks. Again, there is a question for us. Why does the old lady wants Babur to wait? The little old lady watched him read, his fat cheeks wobbling. We know that he's a chubby boy, so his fat cheeks are shaking while he's reading, holding his finger next to the line, like all children do. She was silent, watching him, studying the boy intently as he read, drinking in each frown of concentration, every motion of his arms and hands. She relaxed, letting herself sink back in her chair. He was very close to her, only a little way off. There was only the table and lamp between them. Remember these lines are very important. There was only the table and the lamp between them. They were sitting close to each other, but the only obstruction between them was this table and the lamp. These lines are important. How nice it was to have him come. He had been coming for over a month. Now we get to know that this Babur, this boy, he's a regular visitor and she knows what he makes her feel. Now, ever since the day she had been sitting on her porch and seen him go by and thought to call to him, pointing to the cookies by her rocker. Rocker is a rocking chair. So from these very lines we get to know that this cookie lady was so fond of this young boy, this chubby boy Babur, that she follows each and every movement of his, like motion of his arms and hands. So she focuses on his movements as well. So these lines are also important. She is following each and every movement of this young boy, and why she is doing this we will get to know in the lines to come. Why had she done it? She did not know. She had been alone so long that she found herself saying strange things and doing strange things. She saw so few people. She is not a social woman. Only when she went down to the store, or the mailman came with her pension check, or the garbage men. So she met only few people. She was not at all social. She met these few people only when she went down to the store, maybe to buy something, or the mailman came with her pension check. So she met these three people, or the garbage men as well. So these three people she used to meet. So she was not at all a social woman. She was very lonely. So there is something very peculiar, odd and strange, something very supernatural and unnatural about this woman. Now the very next line goes like, the boy's voice droned on. This means that he is reading very monotonously. It is a very mundane and a boring task for this young boy to read, because his main focus was on the cookies. He wanted to gobble up all the cookies in one go. This is the reason why he is just speaking out, blabbering out in a droned on voice. He is speaking very monotonously. She was comfortable, peaceful and relaxed. Why is it so? We'll get to know. As if she is meditating. The little old lady closed her eyes and folded her hands in her lap. And as she sat dozing and listening, something began to happen. Now these lines are very important. Children, Babur is speaking in a very uninterested and a boring way. But this old woman, she is already very relaxed, feeling very calm. Maybe it can be that she's enjoying this young Babur's company, because she's so lonely that Babur's presence might have added some kind of colors to her life. Maybe this is the reason that she's so relaxed. Maybe she's enjoying Babur's company. This is the reason that we can associate with this particular scene. But it is something else. It is something very supernatural. It is unnatural and ominous. And as she sat dozing off and listening, something began to happen. The little old lady was beginning to change. There was a kind of transformative experience that she is experiencing now, and this experience is very supernatural. She was beginning to change, her grey wrinkles and lines dimming away. It was her lines, her old age, it was dimming away. As she sat in the chair, she was growing younger. The thin, fragile body filling out with youth again. The grey hair thickened and darkened. Color coming to the wispy strands, color coming back to these frizzy short hair. Her arms filled too, the mottled flesh turning a rich hue, as it has been once many years before. These lines are very important. This transformative experience that she's having right now is very important. Children, you have to mark it. Children, we have already read these lines that she was focusing on his hand movements, what he was doing. She was focusing very intently on how he was moving his cheeks, how they were shaking, how they were wobbling. So now from these lines, we also get to know that she was not at all interested in listening to what he was saying, but all she was interested in was observing his actions and movements and draining out the life force out of this boy was her only desire. Why this was her desire? To drain all the life force, youth and vitality out of this young boy. Why is she doing this? Why is she experiencing this transformation? Now you'll get to know. Now in this transformative experience, children, she's actually taking out the energy out of this young boy. She's draining out the life force, the vitality, enthusiasm out of this young boy and his youth as well, because she is the one who wants to experience youthfulness. All right, so this is the reason. Now write down the meanings of these lines. What is the meaning of mottled? It is uneven different colored patches on the skin, meaning of rich hue. Flesh turning a rich hue here would mean a very flushed color, red or pink in color, that is very healthy. Now children, these lines suggest that this Mrs. Drew is a lonely woman, but he is vampiric because she is actually draining the life force out of this young boy. She is draining away the youthfulness out of this young boy Babur. When she asks Babur to read out aloud to her from his school books, she's specifically creating a very comfortable, deceptive atmosphere that makes the boy feel important and actually allows her to keep him at her house for a longer period of time to feed on his vitality and youth. So a contrast can be drawn between these two characters. One is Mrs. Drew and the other is this Babur. So there is a contrast between this innocent young schoolboy with this supernatural wicked nature of Mrs. Drew. These lines also suggest that this Mrs. Drew lures and manipulates the boy under the guise of an innocent educational activity like reading out loud in case of this Babur. This story also acts as a cautionary tale, as I have already told you, for young children who can be easily lured and manipulated by the desirable objects. In this case, it is these cookies, so that they are aware of themselves. Why is this a cautionary tale? So that these young children, they are aware of themselves and their surroundings. The very next time they step outside the house, they fear these strangers and they don't get easily manipulated by their spells and enchantments. Mrs. Drew breathed deeply, not opening her eyes. She could feel something happening. But she did not know just what. Something was going on. She could feel it, and it was good. But what it was, she did not exactly know. It had happened before. Almost every time the boy came and sat by her, especially of late, since she had moved her chair nearer to the couch, she took a deep breath. How good it felt, the warm fullness, a breath of warmth inside her cold body. For the first time in years, these lines are also extremely important. She could sense something supernatural. It was almost like a transitive experience. It was a kind of transformation that she was experiencing, which his presence, his proximity, Babur's closeness was providing her. She could sense a kind of exhilarating experience wherein she begins to transform into a young woman. And the closer he was, the easier it was for her to transform via this supernatural swapping of energy techniques. That is his youth and vitality transforming to that of a tired and a very old person, and very old, very weak person, and that of the old lady who was transforming into a youthful young woman. So his proximity is good enough to bring about some kind of transformation in her. As she listens Babur reading out aloud the lessons, it triggers a very comfortable, peaceful, thrilling, almost magical and rejuvenating transformation for her. She starts feeling fresh, she starts feeling plumpy and youthful, as if she's a woman of 30. She's a 30-year-old woman. She could feel young again. Her grey wrinkles and her fine lines, they were dimming away. Almost they were filtered out. Her old fragile body becomes youthful again. She could feel the energy, she was energetic, and she could feel that vitality and plumpiness. Her hair again, it darkens her body and arms, it fills out. Now these things, all these things, they signify vitality. There is a kind of shift from cold or death like fatigue of her old age to the warmth and energy of youthfulness. Her frail and pale body regained that vibrant, plumpy and flushed appearance of youth temporarily by supernatural means. So again it has got that rich hue. The flesh was turning into a rich hue. Earlier there were patches on her skin, it was mottled. Now her skin has also got a very rich hue. So what does these lines suggest? It suggests that blood is returning to the skin again. It is providing that kind of warmth again, bringing back a warm reddish pinkish color to the complexion. Alright, her health and beauty are restored in this case. And this change that she is almost experiencing, it is parasitic. She is temporarily draining the life force, warmth and vitality from the young boy named Babur. This makes this story very chilling, and it is a cautionary tale exploring themes of loneliness, desperation for youth and the exploitation of innocence. It is almost like a spiritual transformation, something very supernatural and unnatural that she is experiencing, because she is very calm here. It is shown in this line that she breathed deeply, not opening her eyes, as if she is in a kind of meditative experience. She is having a meditation, she is having a kind of meditative and transformative experience right now. These lines are also important. How good it felt, the warm fullness, a breath of warmth inside her cold body because of her old age. Cold body here suggests very old, frailing body, fatigue and all these things. Cold body suggests that the body is now very old, and the warmth that she is experiencing actually signifies youth, vitality that she has drained out of Babur. The very next lines, in her chair, the little old lady had become a dark-haired matron of perhaps 30. She becomes a woman of 30-year-old. She becomes a 30-year-old woman now, a woman with full cheeks. They were again plumpy, and plump arms and legs. Her lips were red again, her neck even a little too fleshy. You might have seen these old ladies, their skin is not at all fleshy, their skin is actually sagging, as it had been once in the long forgotten past. Now, imagine she is such an old woman, a very old woman. Now she has become a woman of almost 30. So there are transformative experiences that you can see through these lines. Suddenly the reading stopped. Babur put down his book and stood up. I have to go, he said. Can I take the rest of the cookies with me? He said, Babur said. She blinked, rousing herself. The boy was in the kitchen, filling his pockets with cookies. She nodded, dazed. Why she dazed? Because she was very confused, because she almost got into that transition, subconscious state. Alright, this is the reason why she was so confused and dazed, still under the spell and enchantment of that experience, that energy that she has experienced like a 30-year-old woman. The boy took the last cookies. So he was so greedy. His desire, he wants to fulfill his desire, he wants to satisfy himself with these cookies, so he took all the cookies with him. He went across the living room to the door. Mrs. Drew stood up. All at once, the warmth left her. She felt tired and very dry again, because I have already told you that the closer he was, the more energy she felt, the more transformative experience, energy, vitality, and youthfulness she experienced. She caught her breath, breathing quickly because she's an old lady, so she is breathing now. She looked down at her hands, wrinkled thin again. She has been reduced to her older self again. Why this happens? Why do you think that this has happened again to her? Because, children, the boy was very far away now. He has left. And when the distance between this young boy and this very old lady increased, there was an impact on the energy that she experienced. So when he left, that transformative vitality, energy, enthusiasm, and youthfulness also fades away, and she again felt like a very old, dried up lady, like those weeds that have overgrown, that are unwanted. Oh, she murmured. Tears blurred her eyes. It was gone, gone again as soon as he moved away. She tottered to the mirror above the mantel and looked at herself. Old faded eyes stared back, eyes deep set in a withered face, gone, all gone, as soon as the boy had left her side. These lines are also very important. Please mark them. I'll see you later. So, children, there is this one thing that we have observed in both these characters, and that one thing is this desire and greed or longing to have something, to achieve something. In case of Babar, it is his cravings and temptation for these cookies which Mrs. Drew bakes. And for Mrs. Drew, it is her longing for the beauty. It is her longing for the youth, because she wants to transform into a youthful woman. Alright, so these are the two desires that one has observed in this particular short story by Philip K. Dick. Babar's cravings, his greeds, his temptations for cookies can be satisfied. Alright, but in case of Mrs. Drew, she's an old lady and she has a desire to become a youthful young woman again. His desire can be fulfilled, it can be satisfied. Babar's desires and cravings for cookies can be fulfilled. But on the other hand, Cookie Lady or Mrs. Drew's desire and longing for the reversal of her aging, this is very unnatural. Aging is an inevitable process, you cannot avoid it. And so here in this particular short story, this unnatural and supernatural element steps in. This is the reason why this unnatural, supernatural element steps in. This transformative experience steps in case of Mrs. Drew, because she is longing to transform her frailing, old, very old, fatigued body to a young and beautiful one, like that of a 30-year-old woman. Look at these next lines, that her tears, blurred her eyes. Why? Because right now, that moment that she has experienced, it was a very transformative and ecstatic experience for her. This is why tears blurred her eyes. She has experienced warmth, she has experienced vitality in her old, frailing body. Alright, where she enjoyed that very energy of her beauty, warmth, enthusiasm, and youth. Alright, so like a wicked witch, like a demon, like a sorceress, she swallows, rather steals away the youth of the boy in this process. We all have seen that the proximity, it is that proximity which is between the two, that strange old lady Mrs. Drew and that young boy Babar. There is a proximity, there is this closeness which has not only transformed her into a young woman, but it has also transformed the young boy into an old, frailing, fatigued body. He is deprived of all his youthfulness that was then transferred in the body of the strange lady. She has actually kind of drawn out his youth and energy in a very supernatural way. So look at these lines, you'll see that how the energy has been drained out of this boy, of this poor boy. Look at these lines. And again, when she sees herself in the mirror, she looks at herself, she sees old faded eyes. But when during that transformative experience, she saw that she has grown into a fully figured, a beautiful, plumpy, a young woman who looked like a 30-year-old woman. So she was so happy. She was over the moon after seeing herself, after recognizing herself as a beautiful young woman who is very plumpy, whose arms, whose legs, whose neck, it was all filled out. It was fleshy again, with a rich hue, with a rich color, that pink flushed color her body had. But now again, she was reduced to an old woman. She saw herself in the mirror. But again, this old, frailing, and fatigued body, it kind of disappoints her. Again, she saw herself in the mirror and stared back. Her eyes were now deep set because of her very old age. In a withered face. Now her face is withered. It has lost that fleshy, plumpy skin. Her skin is very old. It is sagging. It is again sagging. Alright, so everything has gone again. Gone, all gone as soon as the boy had left her side. So I've already told you the distance between the two have increased. The boy is now leaving. He has already left. So as the distance has increased, so that energy also now fades. So again she has gone back into that old skin and old body, which is now very old. It is fatigued. It is very weak. So she's again disappointed to see herself in that very bad condition again. So now because the boy is again leaving, please, she whispered, please come back again. Will you come back? Because again she wants to experience that energy, that enthusiasm, that warmth inside her cold body. So she asks Babar that, will you visit me again? Will you come again? And Babar replied, yes, because there is some kind of temptation in him that is still left, because he is very greedy for those raisins and nut filled cookies, freshly baked. Sure, Babar said listlessly, but with lack of intent, because now his wishes, his greed has been fulfilled, because he has also filled his pockets with those cookies. Now he did not show any intent. Okay, I'll visit, he said. Sure. He pushed the door open. Goodbye. He went down the steps, because his desire has been fulfilled. He has filled his pockets with all sorts of cookies. In a moment, she heard his shoes against the sidewalk. He was gone. Now he has left, and she has also gone back. She has also gone back into her old body with him leaving.